Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the basics of what a draw call is. So, for VR chat, when you load your avatar, it goes through a list of things that it needs to load for that avatar. So, if I remember correctly, there's a draw call for the model, then the material, and the texture to that material. So the material and the texture would be its own separate draw call. Or maybe the actual model is not a draw call, I don't remember, but basically the less amount of materials I have and the less amount of textures you have, the less draw calls. Less draw calls equals faster loading time. So VR chat is very CPU heavy, and the GPU is basically doing all the polygons, if I'm not mistaken. But the CPU pretty much does everything else. So that's why it can get pretty hectic for some people that don't have very good CPUs. Anyways, when you have less, like I said, if you have less draw calls, you load faster. So the optimal way is to have one material and then one texture on your model. That way it's just loaded. So you could have something that's like 100 polygons. 100 polygons is like nothing to a GPU, at least nowadays. And then if you have like 28 materials, let's say you have like one for your face, one for your neck, one for your shirt, one for your pants, one for your sword, blah, blah, blah. That's going to make it take a long, long time to load because what VRChat has to do is like, okay, we got face material. Okay, now we got neck material. Okay, now we got shirt material. Okay, now we got pants material. Okay, now we got, and so on and so forth. Um, Even if it's like really low poly, even if the material is just a color and no texture, it still has to go through. It's like, okay, we got this, we got this, we got this, and it has to go through each and every one of them. So if you had like a model that's like 20, like to the limit, 20,000 polygons, but only one material, then say, okay, we have the material, okay, loaded, and then you'd be done because it only had one draw call. Well, I think it might be two draw calls. Like, okay, material, texture, here you go. And then for like another one that had like 50 materials on it, like, okay, here's the material, here's this texture, here's this material and this texture, and you pretty much get the idea. So what you want to do is minimize that for the sake of not only yourself, but other people trying to play a game, especially when there's like 50 people in one room. You don't want, nobody likes to lag like crazy. And if you don't have a good CPU, it's going to make it really horrible. So, yeah, just try to bring things together. Most people have anime avatars and they get MMD models of the anime avatars. Um, Download the Cats plugin because that will do all that work for you. So you don't have to UV map and combine materials and all that stuff. It combines the materials for you and it uses a thing called Atlas. I'm not too sure. This is the first time I've seen something like that. But it will automatically take all your textures and put it into one material. So, bam. No more 50 million draw calls. No, just be like one or two or however much it is for one material. So, yeah. And with this, I'm assuming you clicked on this from the my tutorial video. This will also help a bit with draw calls. So there's of course the easier way to make your character wield something by going into Unity and just dragging the object into your armature and then bam. But with that, it also has its additional draw calls because it's a separate object and it has a separate material, separate texture, and everything, or multiple. Who knows? And so it's best to put it into Blender and optimize it. I mean, yeah, it could be only a tiny bit longer, but with a big group of people, that adds up. And also, another upside is if you do it through the Blender method of making your own shape key attached to your model, then you can see it in the mirror. So, less draw calls and you can see it in the mirror. Why wouldn't you want to do it? I mean, it is extra work, but I mean, it's really great for performance reasons and everything. But yeah, that's me rambling on about 6 minutes about shape key, or not shape keys, about draw calls. So hopefully that helps you understand a bit.